How do rootkits hide deep inside an operating system? Imagine a secret agent sneaking into a busy building without anyone noticing. That's kind of what rootkits do inside an operating system. They hide so well that even security tools struggle to find them. Rootkits embed themselves at the deepest levels of the system, making detection a real challenge. They can hide in the core part called the kernel, which manages hardware and system resources. When they insert themselves here, they can control everything from managing files to network connections, all while staying invisible. Some rootkits operate in the user space, which is the part where regular applications run. They replace or modify system libraries that programs relying on, like dynamic link libraries on Windows or shared libraries on Linux. This lets them hide malicious activity from normal checks. But because they don't have direct access to the core system, they are usually easier to spot than kernel rootkits. Then there are firmware rootkits. These infect the firmware, which is the low-level software that starts up your device, like the BIOS or Unified Extensible Firmware interface. Since firmware runs before the operating system loads, these rootkits survive reboots and even reinstallations of the operating system. They are very hard to detect because they operate below the level of the OS itself. Hypervisor rootkits are another type. They use hardware virtualization technology to create a fake layer beneath the operating system. The compromised system runs inside a virtual machine controlled by the rootkit. This setup allows the rootkit to monitor and manipulate everything happening inside the operating system without being noticed. Rootkits use clever tricks to stay hidden. They intercept system calls, which are the instructions the operating system uses to communicate with hardware and software. By hooking into these calls, rootkits can hide files, processes, and network activity from security tools. They can also disable or block antivirus programs from detecting them. Many rootkits load early in the startup process, especially firmware and boot-level types. This means they are active before the security software even begins to scan. They often encrypt or obfuscate their code, making signature-based detection almost impossible. They can also modify system data or replace system files to cover their tracks. On Windows systems, rootkits often target the kernel and device drivers, which operate at the highest privilege level. They may install malicious drivers that look legitimate but give attackers control over the system. Because Windows supports many legacy drivers, rootkits can exploit this to hide deep inside the system. Linux and Unix systems are also targets. Rootkits here might replace shared libraries or load malicious kernel modules. The open-source nature of Linux allows for integrity checks, but vulnerabilities in the kernel or poorly secured modules can be exploited to insert rootkits. On macOS, rootkits tend to target kernel extensions or system frameworks. Apple's security protections make this more difficult, but skilled attackers can find ways around them. They may exploit vulnerabilities or use social engineering to install malicious code. The danger with rootkits is that they undermine trust in the operating system itself. They give attackers long-term control, allowing them to steal data, manipulate system behavior, or spy on users without detection. Protecting against them involves multiple layers of security, like boot time checks, firmware validation, and behavioral monitoring. Keeping systems updated and using security tools designed to detect rootkit activity is essential. Understanding how rootkits hide helps us build better defenses and keep our systems safe from these stealthy threats.